Right. What I'm gonna do is I think it might be better to try and build myself up. Try and build myself up to quality. Start off easy, and then push more and more as the session goes on.
And sadly, that didn't work out. What's happening, guys? My name is Anthony or Bushy, and in today's video, I've got a league racing video for you guys. Yes, I know it's been so long since I last did a league race. This time, this is round 5 in WOR, so it's definitely been a while since I even did this race. I believe we've just recorded round 11 the other day there, so yeah, it's been a while, but I'm trying to get through all of the content now for you guys. So going into this one, we had a pretty bad spell of luck going into WOR. I was actually at the point where I was considering just completely leaving league racing as a whole, because just I wasn't enjoying it. I would do some practice, or I wouldn't do some practice, and I'd still feel like I ended up wasting my time. We just have incident after incident with people just not really looking where they're going as they're driving. But I decided to stick with it and just see what we can actually pull out of this season, and try not to give up on the season. So this was sort of that sort of comeback mentality that I had going into it, and that's why I said at the beginning that I wanted to just try and take things slowly, just try and build myself up in quali, because I quickly realized on this game my quali pace is definitely my weak factor. Getting just the most that I can out of that one lap was definitely my weak point on this game, whereas my race pace, I felt a lot more confident, I felt a lot more comfortable in the race. So we'll see, hopefully we can have a stronger race than we do with qualifying here. But as we're finishing up our first lap, as I said, taking it quite easy. You know, we're not really pushing any limits here, so I wasn't expecting things to go very well in terms of his first lap as a banker. You can see Tony did a 26.7, which was usually what a banker would be around here. We do a 27.2, which is obviously quite a bit off the pace. I believe in practice, I did do practice for this one. My banker sort of laps were around about 26.9, 26.8, but yeah, this second lap was absolutely horrendous. Just nothing went right. We went wide at the first corner, got distracted in the second corner. The third corner was all right, but turn 4 wasn't the best either, and yeah, this first sector was horrible. So we're gonna have to try and pull a lot out of our locker here to try and just regain the lap time. And as you can see, going into left fields, we had a little bit of a snap of the rear, and that was pretty much the lap over at this point. We just really struggled to recover the lap back from this. As we're going into Stowe, we can see now we're roughly about half a tenth down as we go wide into the apex, and then we continue that wide line out, and we ended up with a track limits warning. So yeah, I decided to just hop back into the pits and go for another run. I felt like we had enough time to potentially do 2 runs if we were quick enough. So let's see how we do on this lap. This, I believe, did end up being our fastest lap. So we'll sort of talk over it, going into the first corner, using as much track on the entry as possible, and cutting the first corner as much as you can. Try not to scrub up speed in the first and second corner. Braking as the curve starts into the third corner. 4th gear, hitting the apex quite nicely there. Turn 4 now, not the best turn 4 I've ever done in my life. You know, it's definitely lost about half attempt to attempt there, just in general, even though we are a temp up already in the first sector. You can see going into it, just couldn't really get this corner right, because someone had broke the meter board earlier on in the session, and it was just so hard for me to look over to the left for the meter board. I just couldn't get used to it. But Luffields was not too bad. I think we gained about a tenth there in Luffields. And going into Cops, you just absolutely send it downshift, little slight lift, and then you just absolutely send it into the corner on F122. And then we've got the most famous corners in, or some of the most famous corners in Formula 1, Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, taking it as cautiously as we can. Maggots was okay, Beckett's was meh. I think Chapel was definitely the best corner out of the bunch, kind of sort of keep the time that we had lost through the past couple of corners now. Going into the Stowe, didn't want to go too wide in it, so braking a little bit early at the 50. 6th gear, trying to just tuck the car in as much as we can into the corner. Luckily we didn't get an invalidation there as we go into the final chicane. Just, you know, you're just trying to get on the throttle as early as you can. Probably want to upshift the 5th gear just so you can plant the foot down a bit quicker than what I did there. And as we cross the line, we do a 26.9. putting us in P7, and that's not where we finished. We ended up going down a few places to P10. I just wasn't happy with my qualifying there. I know we could have done more, but we've just been so weak in qualifying. So as we start the race, I was a bit more hopeful. We've got the 5 red lights. We're starting on the hard compound tyres. Hopefully we can actually do well here. Lights out on the way we go. I thought someone actually got a drive through Maybe they did, because it looked like they went off a bit too early there. But going into the first corner, luckily we had the inside line there, so we managed to get the position from Jack. That's one position gained. And as we go into the third corner now, just trying to sort of feel out what everyone's trying. Are they trying to go for positions? Are they not? I was personally trying to go for any sort of position that I could possibly pick up. You can also see that Jack, he's looking to sort of get that P9 position back from when we took it from him in the first corner. I didn't really want to give him that kind of position because I knew it was going to be hard to get back into that position. So I was trying to overtake Candy King as well. As you can see, we go 3 wide into love. It was not really ideal here. One of us could have easily taken out the other 2 or taken all of us out at the same time here. So, you know, even though we had a little bit of contact and Jack was still fighting there going into cops, just kudos to those guys, because, you know, it could have been so easy for us to have a race over pretty much there and then, going through right into those type of corners. But as we move on to Maggot Spectator Chapel now, we've got a shout ahead of us, and honestly, he was pretty quick in a straight line. His setup was definitely, he definitely had lower wings in this race. So at that time I didn't know this, but you know, I thought, okay, just try and stay in the DRS. You know, you guys know how league racing and F1 esports works. You pretty much want to be in the DRS for as long as possible. So if we lose out this position now, we're really going to struggle at the sort of mid part of this race, and that's where the race can be won or lost, especially you know, if you've got enough ERS there. And as you can see, Alex behind us, he had a drive through, so he did actually go early, and there was an incident that happened on the final corner that caused him to spin. And this right here was when I realized we were going to be in for a long stint. We just did not have any grip on these hard compounds, and I was like, no, I think we chose wrong. But to be honest, I think in hindsight we chose right, just because you always want to end the race on the faster compound, because if I was having these issues towards the end of the race, it would have been a lot more of a struggle than it ended up being. You can see we lock up going into this left-hander before lap fields, and yeah, at this point I realized, crap, this is going to be a hard stint. You know, you just want to try and get as much out of these tires as you possibly can. And I've noticed that on this game, the hard tires, you have to brake so early in the race. I don't know what it is about them. Usually you would have a little bit more grip than this on the hard compound. This year, oof, the hard tires are very difficult to get warmed up. I guess that's realistic though to real life as we move on to lap 10, where nothing really happened up until this point, to be honest, and we're sort of getting into that mid stage of the race I was talking about at the beginning. Didn't have as much ERS at this point as I would have liked to. You really want to try and keep a lot of ERS during this section of the race, because this is when people are starting to pit. So at this point you're thinking, okay, well, maybe you can go for an overcut, use all your ERS, or maybe you can go for a surprise undercut, use all your ERS, maybe get past one person and then dive into the pits to go for a surprise undercut. But sadly, we only had about 30-40% ERS at this point, and using that ERS, it would have been very silly. As you can see, we do end up using quite a bit of that ERS, and it was a bit silly. We are still in the train, and we're still comfortably in the train as well. You may have noticed that we ended up with a 3-second time penalty. I knew that this was going to sort of ruin us towards the end of the race. We were definitely going to lose a position or two thanks to that 3-second time penalty, and we got it just simply because there was lack of grip. I was taking too much speed into the corners and not actually accounting for the lack of grip that the tires were giving me, and we just went wide a couple of times, and then boom, we were handed with a 3-second time penalty. So yeah, tough break there on this lap. In hindsight, watching this back as I edit this, definitely should have went for a surprise undercut on this lap here. My thought process at this time was, now that we've got the 3-second time penalty, maybe we should just stick with the train, and hopefully the train can really drag us along as the race goes on. Really should have pitted here and gone for the undercut, because even though we would have had worse tires towards the end, I feel like we still could have made it work somehow. But yeah, moving on to lap 12, Bogdan gets overtaken by Shout, and that's when he decides to go into the pits. Again, that was another opportunity to go in for the pits, but at the time my thought process was just that 3-second time penalty and trying to gain as much time as we can using the DRS train. But in hindsight, we definitely should have not done that, and we should have pit, because the hards pretty much fell off the cliff at this point. You can see we got a warning there, and that's just because there was no grip. We lost so much time to Shout. We're out of the DRS now at this point, and yeah, I was just thinking, yeah, should have pit on lap 12. We're going to have to pit now on lap 13. But Shout goes into the pits as well, I believe. No, he actually doesn't. So I decide to hop into the pits. I believe, is that Tony behind us that also hops into the pits as well? No, he might have pitted before. But as we come out of the pits now on the mediums, we go into the corner. And Bogdan actually messaged me after the race saying I should have left him more space here. I don't really think I should. I believe I was the first to that corner by quite a long shot there. So don't really know what he was talking about, but we wouldn't really have kept him behind anyway, just because we are sort of warming up our mediums here, whereas he's already had a lap to do that. So it was going to be pretty inevitable that he gets past us here. But as long as I can keep up with him as much as I can, try and stick within that DRS, then we should be okay in warming up our tires and potentially getting the undercut on anyone that was in front of us, mainly Shout. But yeah, you can see now sort of teetering on that 1 second, margin there. I probably should have used a little bit more ERS at this point than what I did, just to stick within that time period there. But as you can see, Shout gets a really good overcut here. Not sure how. He just had a lot of pace on that in lap, and you know, he was able to get the overcut on us, but his tires are still quite cold, so I used this opportunity to get a very nice cutback on him, and I knew it was now or never. You know, if we didn't get past him now, then we wasn't going to get past him as his medium tires start to warm up. So this was crucial that I did that, and you can see now that Alex is ahead of us. He's got a 3-second time penalty, and obviously he had that drive through, which is why he ended up being around here. Lap 21 now, sort of crunch time, trying to get the most out of this race that I possibly can. We've got 3 seconds of time penalties now. Shout behind us doesn't, and then we've got Jack behind him who does as well. This was a 4-man train. I believe it was Candy King who was the final car in this little train here. He also didn't have a penalty at this point, so I was thinking, okay, Jack is going to be my main rival moving on to the last couple of laps of this race. He's going to be the person that we're sort of battling for P5 with, so as long as we play this smartly, we can beat him and we can get that P5, because Candy King, unless he gets a 3-second time penalty or a Shout gets one, then the most we can get out of this is P5. So Shout overtakes us due to DRS, and I was like, yeah, okay, that's fine, just let him pass, because as time goes on, he's going to be dragging us along, which is going to help us with the DRS. You know, Jack isn't going to be able to make an easy overtake on us going into the final couple of laps here. So yeah, this was definitely the best place to be at the time, the second man in the train, so we could follow him. He had a lot of straight line speed, so it was, you know, he was dragging us along in the straights, and then in the corners I felt like we were okay. But moving on to lap 25 now, this is where I decided to execute my plan of defense, and you guys know what they say, the best form of defense is actually attack, and that's exactly what we go and do here. I decided to use all of the ERS that I have, use the DRS that we had, and overtake Shout so we can actually make a small buffer to Jack, so that, you know, he doesn't end up trying to send it on us, because if we didn't make that move, Jack was going to be breathing down our necks the entire last lap as he tries to make the move, because he knows that the best he's going to get out of this is P5, so he needs to overtake me at the time to do that. And as we move on to the final lap now, this is where I start to explain my thought process behind that move.
Brilliant. I had to make that move there because Jack was going to try and send it. I know he was, but I had to make the move on Shout, because I knew that Shout's going to play it cautiously, because he knows that he's not got a pen. So that move wasn't to get past Shout, that was to actually get past Jack.
So yeah, just like I said before, pretty much just the best form of defense is attack. Make sure that Shout is behind us, because Shout's not going to play this aggressively because he knows he can gain a position from me, and Candy King also isn't going to play this super aggressive either because he knows he could potentially gain 2 positions out of me and Jack. So to be honest, the only people who are really battling for any sort of positions here right now was myself and Jack. So the fact that we had Shout behind us was a fantastic advantage. As we go into the final straight, well, not the final straight, but we go to the back straight for the final time, you can see that Shout, he's got the DRS, he's going to get past us, which is fine, because, you know, even though Jack was behind him, he managed to actually get a pretty decent gap to him. So now we've got a 3-tenth gap going into the final corner. That's pretty much ours for the taking. So luckily our plan of attack / defense managed to work out, and we're going to finish in P5 behind Candy King, since we had that 3-second time penalty. And yeah, I was pretty happy with this result, to be honest, just because of what we had went through in the past couple of rounds before that, and obviously going through the process of thinking that I wanted to quit league racing just as a whole because I wasn't enjoying it or the game at the time. Yeah, I was pretty happy with this result, and I knew, okay, we could try and take this result and build up on on that momentum. So yeah, I've got a lot more league races that I need to make content on. I've got quite a backlog here, not only of WOR, but a new league that I've joined as well, which I have been streaming. I'm going to make some videos on that very, very soon. So stay tuned to that. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video and you're still watching. Make sure to click the video up towards the top right hand side of the screen right about now. YouTube's recommending this video to you. They usually know what you guys want to watch on the channel, so check that out, and I hope that you enjoyed that video.